And it is time to welcome this month's live guests, Lavender. Hey, Oskar and Adam, how are you guys doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good. So obviously I've been playing the tracks and the album is now...
It is now.
Out.
Yeah.
How are you guys feeling? Yeah, We're Having a Barn Dance is the record. How's it been? How's this release rollout been and everything?
Pretty emotional.
Yeah.
Might get some tears out of us.
Yeah. We were just talking outside, being like, have you come down yet? No, neither of us are like. We came out on Friday and we did like a in-store show at Rough Trade, and we both cried like 3 times during the performance. Like
Happy tears, I think.
Mostly happy tears, yeah.
Just tears of joy to finally have it out. And like, was it a big labour of love, or is it just has this been a long time coming? Because you guys do go way back, right? So you're going to have to tell us about how Lavender formed. But yeah. How long time coming was this record?
I think it's been about 3 and a bit years from starting the kind of inception to it to like the release. And it has been a labour of love, like a painful. No, it was. There were complications in the. I feel like we went insane during the process of making it, and the emotions are like. Partly, it's an emotional record, and there's a lot, to relive, and then there's also just this like sense of pride and like considering, like we were just reminiscing, like the last few days we've just been like, remember then 3 years ago when we were like making that and being like, it's crazy how much life has happened since then. Yeah. And we've just like lived with this record for 3 years.
Long.
So it's a bit wild to finally have it out there in the world, I guess.
Yeah, there must be this crazy sense of like almost relief, but then also trepidation in a way, because it's meant so much to you and it's so personal. It's your first like big record and all of that.
Yeah, it's all a bit weird, really. No one really tells you like before you do it, like how it's going to feel. Like I think that was definitely my our thoughts of just kind of like, I listen to music so much. I've watched so many interviews with bands, and I feel like no one's really articulated the feeling of releasing something that's quite personal and that you've kind of like labored over, and as soon as it becomes public, I had like a good couple meltdowns, especially with the singles, just being like, wait, what? And we released music, before. But this definitely feels like a new thing. Stakes are higher, and I think like it means another level to us, this record. So I think like, I don't know, it's just weird. It's just like, and we were just like doing it, like, this is such a weird thing to do. No one's making us do this. And like, we've just decided to make this thing and share it, and then...
We're both perfectionists as well in that sense. So I think that was probably one of the reasons why it took so long, because it was just like, we did, I think, 18 mixes of If Not Now Then When.
Yeah.
Shout out to Barry
18.
James, who did the mixing for us. But yeah, we mixed it a few times before we sent it to be mixed, and then we mixed it a good few times after that as well. So
relinquishing control then is something for you guys.
Yeah.
It's not come easy.
No.
Okay. And tell us, because did you meet at school? Is that right?
Yeah.
So like how long have you guys known each other, and at what point did you want to start making music, or has this been like since then? I mean,
not really. Like we were in a pretty big year group at school, and I think we were like either side of it, so weren't really friends. Not enemies, but weren't friends. And then I was like the only DJ at school, so I was like, by virtue of that, the best and the worst. And when Adam had an indie band at the time, and they needed some help recording, and I think he just knew that I had Ableton, so he was like, he'll do it.
You.
And then the drummer we recorded that with was ill on the first couple of days, so I had to make some beats on the fly, and most of the band were like, this is weird, don't like this, and Adam was like, this kind of rocks.
Good.
So yeah, since then, that was after school, but we both moved to London after uni, and had a studio space that a friend wasn't using, so I like went in and used it, and I was like, feels a bit weird being in this room on my own, so we chatted about it a few times, and then
we'd always talked, like, I think we both had our own musical projects, and like, again, we weren't like super close friends, but we were like the only guys that we knew that were doing music like at the time. And I think like, so we just both, I'd listened to everything Oskar released, and like it was amazing, and I'd always be like, wow, that's so cool. But like we come from different like musical worlds, so it was never like, oh, like But we were always like, we should try and do something together at some point for years.
Yeah.
And then we just both ended up in London and kind of, it just happened from there.
I think people we went to school with are pretty confused by it.
Yeah. Everyone's like, when did you guys like what? But yeah.
Where was it? Like, was this in London or was this out of London?
Is it in Amersham?
In Amersham.
Okay,
Technically Zone 9,
yes.
which people don't believe exists.
Zone 9 crew. I grew up Zone 6 crew.
Oh, hell yeah.
Radlett, which isn't that. It's like Radlett, like Hertfordshire.
Okay.
Is Amersham kind of a bit further around or a bit further?
It's a bit further west, like northwest.
Yeah.
Like if you hit Chesham, you've gone too far in all senses.
In many senses.
Yeah. So then when you did start just kind of creatively trying to throw ideas around, did it just feel really natural and right? And,
I think the first session was maybe a bit of like just feeling out what we could both do. And like the longer it's gone on, like the more, like I came in as a very like traditional like producer role, and Adam was like instrumentalist singer, and then it's just blurred. It's kind of become a soup since then. Now it comes easier. But,
I think we say that though, but then like listening back like to the first session we had, where it was kind of like we were just like, I'd never worked with someone who works the way that Oskar does, and I never will again. Like it's very unique. But I think that was kind of like a thing. But then we listened back to that track and we're like, it's bangs. It's actually bangs. But I think I think we were kind of surprised how natural it was. And I think when we're describing our sound and stuff and like coming from different things, it was like, oh, it's a meeting point or whatever, but it was never preconceived. It just kind of happened naturally. And I think we were surprised at how much just kind of like we just locked in immediately. And we're like, oh, we both love this middle of the Venn diagram. Yeah. And we are just drawn to making this kind of stuff, like textures and layers and layers. And it's kind of like, it's quite similar ears, but for different things. Yeah.
It definitely sounds like very seamless and as one thing.
Thanks, Georgie.
So then this album, like, just what was that like making it? I mean, you sort of said that it was like a labour of love at points, and there was a lot of perfectionism happening in the studio.
It's interesting, like the process took place over like we recorded it in so many different locations. It was kind of like a bit of a wild year, and it kind of, the writing pretty much with the exception of Harlequin, the last track, all happened kind of within the span of a year, and it kind of unfurled as it goes along. And I think the album has like a chronology to it where it's kind of, with a few like switches around, like the tracks were made in sequence kind of, so as you listen you get later on. And that took about a year, and it was a very hectic year in like personal lives and stuff. Like I was couch surfing for like the bulk of the time writing, but so like Oskar, we would just meet, and I was like sleeping on Oscar's sofa for like a good chunk of it as well, and like we would just like, it was just all over the place. And I think like it was the process of recording was a real like constant in that year, and it was I think we've said before, it like kind of like unlocked a new thing that music could be for us. Like I think kind of held on to it in a way that I think we hadn't before, being like felt quite necessary to be doing stuff. And then so that was like a year, and then it took another like year and a half to be the perfectionists in us, because like
thankfully we were both perfect looks the same to both of us, I think. So it's like, it's not like we're fighting each other over what that looks like, but we're just fighting a mystery third thing. How to get there. But.
And it's so inexplicable. Like you don't. It's always like, I think we're very blessed to almost always have exactly the same vision, even if it's mad. Like I think the track, like If Not Now Then When, the second track on the album, that's like, there's 300 layers in that. It's like a 6-minute saga. But like even when we were starting out, I was like, there's no doubt we don't know where this is, but we have the same vision, and I know that. Like I know we see this going the same way. And then it took like 3 months to do it, and then it's like the last month was just tweaking this last section where it's like the sample rhythm is like swung, and then we're like, but that's like kind of wrong, and then it's like straight, and then so we
walked
we were working on it for ages, and then it was like we changed one of the loops to be like it starts off straight and then it goes swung, and then each 4 bars it changes, and then like all of a sudden we were like, oh my god, that's it! Like we finished
cracked the code.
And then we like drove back from the studio like blasting it, just being like after a month of going insane, just being like, this is why we do this.
We got it.
Yeah, and that's only for us. Like,
Well, you know, as long as you're moving towards the same goal, and like you trust your instincts, right? That you know that you'll get there because you both have a similar, like you're in tune with each other on it.
For sure.
I want to talk about, we're going to play a track from the record. This is actually the latest single, but as soon as I heard this, I was like, oh, this is a good one. Missing You. Oh, it's beautiful.
Thanks.
So, like, thematically, are there, like, endings and beginnings and breakups? Is that, you know, because Missing You? Is that kind of what was sort of informing the lyrical themes, I suppose?
I think, like, there were a lot of transitions on the record of, like, a lot of themes of love and kind of changing. I think this track, like, Missing You, I guess there's, like, a lot of search for clarity throughout. Like, I think, you know, things change. There are endings, there are beginnings, and I think like a lot of the record is kind of trying to figure out like a bit of like self-reckoning, a little bit of that. And I think this track is the first track on the B-side of the record, and it kind of marks with like the shift in kind of, there's a bit of an acceptance in like not being able to ever figure everything out at once, and like kind of accepting the fact that like it's all a process. It's a process, and like some questions will never be answered, and it's more about like just kind of like living the questions as they go.
And accepting that being a perfectionist is maybe not a healthy way.
It's
probably a big part of the record.
And then also kind of like a recognition that like I guess like there can be a transition of love. It doesn't need to kind of end. It can just change. But yeah.
And what was the nerdiest perfectionist moment on this track? 16 takes, was it?
We sample a lot, and a lot of the time that can be pretty problematic when you're trying to release a record. So for me, the nerdiest part of this one was replaying the drum break. There's a drum break right at the end that was sampled from a record that I won't mention because we replayed it, and like recreating the drum textures to try and make them sound exactly the same. That took...
There's like 27 versions.
Quite a few of that.
It's so funny, that kind of stuff. There's like a few drum replays on the record that Oskar just like nailed, and it's also inexplicable. It's like it's just the feeling. Like people can be like, oh, we're so in our heads about frequencies and whatever, and it's like it's nothing to do with that. It's like we both know how we want to feel when we listen to the music. And until you hear it and you're like, oh, that's the feeling. You just keep going. You keep going.
Like finding a gem or like a rough digging.
It's like you know it when you see it.
All right, well, let's play it. So everybody, this is Lavender. This is Missing You. You've just joined in the show and you're new to them. They're absolutely brilliant. They've got an album out called We're Having a Barn Dance, and I'm joined by the guys in the studio, and we'll be chatting more after this one, Missing You. So that is the sound of Lavender. And was that, Missing You, was that one of the moments in your Rough Trade set on release day where you had a little tear?
There were too many to count.
We opened with it and it was a mistake.
It just sounds really, really beautiful. I mean, that hook is just gorgeous. You know what I was going to say is, because your studio, like in your PR, it says Lavender spent a year grappling with the idea of home while writing the album. And it began in a farmhouse in France and then ended in a studio behind the Lidl in Limehouse. I know this Lidl well.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, because I live in Mile End, so
great
it's
bakery
not
section.
just down the great bakery. It's a good Lidl. I mean, we're like massively plugging it here, but but is that where your studio is then?
It was.
It was.
Yeah. That was like it's called Way Out Studios. And that was kind of where a lot of the finessing happened. I think like a lot of the writing happened around it in other places, and we'd kind of go there to like work on
tweak the last bits.
the
That's where we
layers
really
and-
lost our mind. There's no windows in that studio. And,
Oh, I have such like it was such a hectic time as well.
Like an airless room
Yeah,
with
very
just
much so.
no light.
It was always like freezing cold in the winter, or like really warm in the summer. There's no comfortable
No
period
middle
to be in.
ground.
Yeah.
Just either sweating, like it was like in a sauna, or freezing
shivering,
cold,
yeah.
and like sleeping bags making music.
Yeah, we also like when we moved in there, we found all of this soundproofing in the smoking
Yeah.
area, but it had been raining, so it was like
Yeah,
this
yeah.
wet sound. But it's quite expensive to buy.
Yeah.
Like if we were to kid it out, so we're like, sick, we'll just buy it, and we're like, it'll dry,
Yeah.
it'll dry. So we like took it all because there was like an area where people were just throwing stuff out, and we took it all,
Yeah.
put it up on the walls, and then like came in like a few days later, and we're like, this place is damp.
Yeah,
and like
and it had all fallen off.
it had all
Oh,
fallen
and
off.
really
and we were
mouldy
just like-
smell,
yeah.
like damp
Yeah, yeah.
smell.
It was so dumb, but
Yeah.
and then we just like bought a bunch of dehumidifiers
Yeah.
and just like we're just like, well, this is home.
Yeah.
Well, the best intentions, but
Yeah.
yeah, it didn't quite
Yeah.
go to plan. Oh, so you hold up there, and then what about farmhouse in France?
Oh, that was a cool time. That was
Yeah.
like our friend who does a lot of our videos and
Yeah.
stuff. His grandma is French and had lived in this like
Converted
it's a
farmhouse.
Farmhouse, yeah, but
Yeah.
I guess not a farm because it was on a mountain.
I think it was an abattoir.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Ooh.
There were some hooks in some of the
Oh,
rooms.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
We added a
An
few more.
active abattoir, not the smell. Not, you didn't hear the smells
No,
of
no,
death.
no.
Years back.
Okay.
But yeah, we spent like a week there, and
Yeah.
that is where we made. If
We
Not
planned
Now
to
Then
do
When.
like loads of the album.
Yeah.
And we only really wrote If Not Now Then When.
Yeah, and it was
Yeah.
like it was one of the most beautiful places we've ever been. And we were just like, we left and we didn't leave the house.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and we were like with a few friends as well. And the idea was like, oh, we'll write a bit, and then we're like, go down to the river and like swim, like whatever. Like we left the house like once in
Yeah.
a week, and they kept being like, are you sure you guys? And we were just like locked in.
Yeah.
Um,
They're like, do you want to come out and
Yeah.
like, hang out? No.
but that's like, and on the vinyl, like the gatefold picture, there's like a picture, and that's there, and that
Yeah.
kind of felt like the real inception of the album.
Yeah.
So is that maybe linked to the barn dance title then? No, not really.
A little bit.
A little bit,
Yeah.
yeah. I guess like it started. We also did some recording in like a barn, and
Yeah.
that's where the title track was made.
Yeah.
And I think we called it that as a joke at
Yeah.
first, and then we were like, we'll change that. And then like actually, it was one of those things where the title just kept taking on new meanings, and we
Yeah.
were like,
Yeah.
damn, I think it's actually going to be
Yeah.
the album. Like,
And is there a sense of like slight sarcasm on the title as well?
Little
Just
bit.
like we're having a barn dance,
Yeah,
but
a little
actually like some of the songs quite sad and like
yeah, I think so. And then there's like, but there's also like, yeah, I guess there's a sense of like a barn dance is like a lot of changing partners
Yeah.
and movement,
yes.
and like it's grueling as well
Yeah.
as being like,
Yeah.
a celebration,
Yeah.
kind of and then it was also just kind of a joke at the
Yes.
start, and like, it's
Yeah.
interesting how those things kind of like after a while just been like, damn, we are having a barn dance.
Yeah.
I guess we're having a barn
we're
dance.
having a barn dance. That's gonna
We
be the
have like
title.
a running joke that on the album too, we're gonna have to do like loads of tracks called like Rich and Easy or like Good Life,
Yeah.
just because they feel like they become self-fulfilling after a while.
Yeah.
That's always the case.
Yeah.
There's so many moments on the record as well, like especially like lyrically, like writing, trying to access a bit of like subconscious, and it's
Yeah.
like you just realize you know yourself like better than the front of your
Yeah.
brain knows itself, and like so often we'll make a song and then 6 months later we're like, oh damn, that's more
Yeah.
true than we knew at the time.
Yeah, like
So we're-
weirdly resonant. Yeah.
Yeah. Next album is all just $1 million.
Yeah.
Great success. Unbound happiness.
Yeah. And then I also want to ask you, just like Lavender, because obviously in this day and age, it's quite hard to sort of settle on a alias, right?
Yeah.
Especially if it's like, you're two people and,
Yeah.
like it's hard.
It is tough.
So yeah, how did Lavender come about?
That came about, like, we had a few names, like, bopping around at the start, and then it came about from our friend, or like it was inspired by, we were called Basmati for a little bit. That was our
Okay,
first,
like the rice.
like the rice, because Oscar's surname's Rice.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm
I see
a
where
little
that comes from.
Pakistani, and we're like, that's the fusion. That's
Yeah.
the fusion. and thank God we didn't go with that.
Yeah.
But we were I was playing a gig with this artist, Anyone the Wanderer, he's in Wolverhampton, and he's like, we went out after the gig, and we'd sent him kind of the first ever like beat pack that we'd made. Anyway, and then he was kind of explaining it to a friend, and I was wearing this like purple flowery shirt, as I often do, and like he was like explaining it, and he was like, oh, it's hip hop, but it like also sounds like Adam's shirt. And then I was a few drinks down and like messaged Oskar, and I was like, it should be a flower. We should be called a flower. And then I think you were just like, what about lavender? And I think I sent a picture of the shirt. He was like, apparently it sounds like this.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds like my shirt. Therefore, the shirt had lavender on it.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
But like loads of stuff we were saying about the album, I think it took on some more meanings afterwards. But
yeah,
that's just it, really.
Yeah, and I also want to just ask a little bit about like the gospel influences, because there's a little bit of that coming through. And I was listening to like through to the record, and I was just like, oh my God, you guys need to be on the Euphoria soundtrack.
Oh, if you got any plugs?
I can't pull any strings. Unfortunately, I do not know the music people, the music sync team of Euphoria. But
you know Jacob, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you busy mate. Joe, why didn't you hook it up?
It's not actually a gospel influence. I'm actually saying Elordi.
Yeah. But like I was listening through it, and it's just like that. It's got that kind of cinematic vibe to it that would like fit that show really well. And it just hit me. I was like, someone, get your producers to call their producers. You know,
we're cheaper than you would imagine.
But where does this kind of love of cinematic, like making, because you've created such like a sound world, which you've sort of get throughout the record. And you know, it's like it's its own thing, and it's your own thing. Where does that kind of cinematic nature come from, or like what kind of artist is it that brought you guys together and making this kind of music?
It's a great question.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think like a lot of the gospel sounds kind of from the sampling side of stuff. Like that kind of informs a lot of that. But we're big fans of Bon Iver. Like I guess there's a lot of like cinematic world from that kind of stuff.
I think it's also like, it's just, like I say about feeling, I think we like, that's always just like the goal, is to just feel a lot with the music. And like both in the process of like when we're making it, there's a specific feeling we kind of know and can now, after years and years of making like thousands of songs together that will never see the light of day, we can recognize a feeling that's like pure and like
a flow state.
Like I think we can judge the quality of the music based on like where it came from a bit better. Like we know how we feel when we make something pure, and then it's also just kind of like it evokes emotion, that start of the idea, and then it's kind of like, how do we communicate that full emotion? And I guess this record, the stuff we make might not always be so cinematic, but it felt so dramatic, and it was just kind of like to, you know, express that feeling, which was just heightened emotions. It was kind of like go to the nth degree with the production as well, and like that's why I think it's just like with the production and the layering and everything, you're only trying to just like communicate an emotion, I suppose.
I think as well, like our first EP, like we'd made a lot of stuff that we liked the sound of, but there wasn't necessarily too much of like a story being told. I mean, there was like bits and pieces, but I think for us, like a big part of this album and like growing up a little bit to make it was realizing we wanted to tell stories, I guess, in a way. And I guess that kind of lends itself to a bit more of a cinematic sound if you're trying to tell a story.
That is true. Yeah. And there's a bit of it's a journey. I guess the record like has a narrative in a sense, and like it's like when we put it out, like someone's like, oh, what's your dream for the record? Like how what do you want to happen? And I think like we were both kind of like, I think all I could think of is just like, I hope people don't put it on shuffle and just listen to it front to back and sit down and listen to it. Like that's all you could ask for, which you can't control.
No.
But
there are people who still listen to album from start to finish. Me included.
Shout out them.
I know. Maybe not, you know, everyone says, oh, attention span, no one listens to albums anymore. People do. People do. And have you seen, you know, as people have started listening and connecting with it, like has that been quite a cool journey, just like seeing it sort of trickle out and get some, you know, quite a lot of plays? And
it's been really nice. I think like with like an album that's so personal to both of us, it's like a bit weird to put that out there and then have like people reading your diary in a sense. But I think the really nice thing is like, and we talk about it quite a lot, is that like if you write from a really personal place and you put it out, people don't like, they'll put their own stuff onto it, and it'll take on new meanings for other people, and getting a bit of an insight into what it means for other people when they kind of tell us about it is really nice.
Yeah, that is very cool.
Yeah, that's like the beauty of it, isn't it? That everyone can bring what they, interpret it in a way that is relevant to them,
It can be kind of surprising though, I guess, that we hadn't conceived that would be the thing, because it means something specific, and then when someone's like, this is what that means to me, it's something completely different, I'm like a bit relieved as well. Just how cool, like thank God, like
takes the pressure off.
Yeah. But it's really nice. It's really nice. Yeah.
So guys, what are your plans then? More touring, more EPs, albums? Like, where are we at? What does the next kind of 12 months look like?
Just more albums, really. We love it. We've done, we've got like, the second album is pretty far along, and the third one as well is like, we kind of habitually make music, so we try and make something like every day. So we've just been making stuff, and back in the studio. Hopefully do some more shows a little later this year. We've been gigging like the last like couple months a lot in the run up, and I think we're both quite keen to just get back in the studio. That's kind of like we love playing the shows. But I think we're both like itching to dig back in and make the next record, I guess.
Amazing. Well, we look forward to hearing it. And we're going to play another track from it, Way Over. There was a few to pick from. I did also love Cowboy Pancakes.
Oh, yeah, we love
And Harlequin, which I've played on the show previously, is also fantastic. But let's talk about Way Over. Is there any stories about this or anything you can say?
I think that, I mean, Way Over's maybe the oldest one on the record, and the beat for it I made in lockdown when we were trying to do like one beat a day. I'd just been made redundant, so I was like, I've got to do some stuff with my time. And was trying to make at least one track a day, and I made this one. I think it was called like Beat 9 or something, and I sent it to Adam, and I think I like left the house or something on one of my government mandated one walk a day, and I didn't like check my phone or anything. I came back like 4 hours later, and you'd like lost your mind a bit on it.
I heard it. I remember like Oskar sending it to me, and it was like just after we'd put out Peppermint, like our first single, and he sent me the beat, and I was like, oh my God, he's a genius. Like, what is this? Like, I can't place this sound, but I was like so moved by it. And then I had like, I just started recording some stuff. I got all of my housemates at the time, because it was locked down, to record like, because I could hear this kind of like choral vibe. Record those, spent a few hours like adding a bunch of layers, and then sent it back to Oskar. And then I guess it was years later, we were always like, that's a really special one, but it didn't have a verse or like any lyrics other than just like the chorus kind of like mantra. And we played it live a couple times, but I'd never written the verse. And every time we'd play a show, Oskar would be like, you're going to write that verse, right? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then we get on stage, and like I won't have written it, and I just like fumble something and just like improvise something. And we had this like co-headline show at Peckham Audio, right in the midst of like this personal chaos, and it was like, oh, I'm gonna write it, I will write it, and hadn't. And then we got there, and like our manager happened to get a video of just the bit where we both improvised, and like you hadn't written the bass part or anything, and you just got this video anyway. And then like months later, I was like, oh, I'd love to revisit that for the album, because it's the sentiment that I really like. We were like, it would fit the B-side so well. And picked up, and I was like, oh, check that video. And I like watched back, and I was like, both like the lyrics and the melody I sang, I was like, that's perfect. And same with Oscar's bass line. You'd never played that before. And I was like, that's incredible. And so we just like recorded that. And then it was quite cool, like going back and watching the video and being like, it came completely improvised on stage, and then now it's in the record.
I love that. Amazing. All right, well, let's play it. Lavender, thank you so much. Adam and Oskar, so nice to meet you guys.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming in, and thanks for this amazing record. And if anyone is new to Lavender, go check it out. We're having a barn dance. It's available everywhere.
Sure
and
is.
you guys are on socials and everything as
Yes.
well, aren't you?
Yeah.
And we'll finish with this. This is Way Over. Thanks, guys.
Cheers,
Thank you.
Georgie.